you're a kid in the 1990s, it was kind of hard to not be a fan of the X-Men. I mean, that cartoon that ran throughout the early to mid-90s is still etched into my mind, and I can remember diligently rushing home to watch the episode my parents had taped for me that day. In fact, if I wasn't watching TV shows back then I was probably playing video games, and in 1996 I pretty much ate, breathed, and slept Quake. In 1997, someone had the brilliant idea of combining Quake with the X-Men, which ultimately ended with the total conversion, X-Men Ravagers of Apocalypse. Two things I loved, so what could possibly go wrong? Well, let's find out. So, developed by a relatively small and practically unknown team called Zero Gravity Entertainment, X-Men Ravagers of Apocalypse is a game that pits you up against hostile clones of all your favourite X-Men as you try to stop whatever the hell it is Apocalypse is planning. You'll go up against Rogue, Psylocke, Jean Grey, Angel, Wolverine, and Cyclops, among a few others, and they're all based off their comic book counterparts and behave the way you'd expect. So Wolverine runs around like an asshole, swinging wildly at you with his adamantium claws. Psylocke behaves in a similar fashion, attacking with her katanas. Cyclops, Bishop, and Gambit attack you with their respective weaponry, and Storm hovers around firing lightning bolts and knocking you back with gusts of wind. Then there's Rogue and Cannonball, who smash into you like total pricks. Now, you've got to give credit where credit is due. Considering the age of the game, 1997, they've done a pretty bang up job of including all of these different characters and making them feel different. Jean Grey's psychic attacks, for instance, affect the player much differently than do Storm's, Bishop's, or Cyclops' attacks. Certain weapons flat out don't work against certain X-Men either, so rockets have no effect against Angel, for instance, who simply curls up like a ball to avoid taking damage. In keeping in line with Wolverine's Weapon X origin, he can't be killed in game, and even after you've seemingly finished him off, he'll continue to get back up and hunt down the player until you can finish the level. All of these factors are pretty good indicators that the people who worked on this thing are huge fans of the source material, and that's really the vibe you get when you're playing it. The area at the start of the game where you select the difficulty, for instance, is modelled after Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters. However, the problems that affect Ravagers of Apocalypse really kind of affect it in a pretty fundamental way, and there's lots of areas of the game that are either unrefined or just flat out bad. For starters, the game gives you access to all of the weapons from the get-go. You've got a shotgun, a machine gun, what I assume is supposed to be a plasma cannon, a flamethrower, and a grenade and rocket launcher. Then there's some kind of explosive orb thing that you launch as well, which I don't even know what the hell that thing's supposed to be. It's a pretty standard roster of weapons, which isn't helped by the fact that none of them are really all that fun to use, and they all just feel kinda clunky. The shotgun, for instance, fires 2 shells, and the machine gun fires out a short burst before a delay prevents you from firing again. Similar thing with the plasma cannon and the flamethrower. When I was first playing the mod, I actually thought it was my mouse that was screwing up, or something like it wasn't detecting me holding down the fire button in game, but I remapped it to the keyboard and I still had the same issue. It's just this really weird design choice, and it seems deliberate because there's a rapid fire power up that allows you to fire unrestrained for about 10 or so seconds until the power up runs out. About the only genuinely effective weapon is the rocket launcher, which fires out multiple projectiles that lock onto nearby enemies, often killing them in 2 or 3 hits. The dilemma here is that it shares its ammo supply with the grenade launcher for some reason, and you burn through your ammunition stock really quickly due to the high enemy count in the levels. This forces you to fall back to your other weapons, like the flamethrower, which is honestly quite useless most of the time due to its limited range, and also because it shares its ammo supply with the plasma cannon. This leaves us with the shotgun and the machine gun, and I'd say the shotgun is the clear winner here, hands down. Does more damage than the machine gun and only uses 1 shell per shot, whereas you'll be pumping through maybe 20 or 30 rounds if you use the machine gun. Again, like the plasma cannon and the flamethrower, however, both these bad boys share the same ammo supply. So if you're hoping to fall back to your trusty shotgun when the machine gun ammo counter runs drier than a nun's nasty, well, think again, Sunny Jim. Even outside of the weapon lineup though, the level design just feels rushed and sloppy. Levels have no real flow to them. You're often activating these tiny buttons and switches and then backtracking to God knows where to find out what the hell it actually opened. You've got objectives like destroying a supercomputer or a cloning lab, which breaks the tedium up from just running around and shooting things, but even then it's often kind of unclear as to just where the hell you're supposed to be going next. The level of detail with the environments is honestly something you'd see at times on like a really crappy Doom clone from the mid-90s. There's lots of empty hallways with practically nothing going on, and certain areas also have a real lack of light sources, making the levels needlessly dark. I also found that the health, ammo, and armor pickups are kind of inconsistent. You might get a level where you don't see one for 5 minutes, then the next level there's ones around every corner. Each stage you're also on the lookout for a weapon component to destroy Apocalypse in the game's finale, and yet despite these being necessary to finish the game, you're still able to finish a level without collecting it. And if you get to Apocalypse missing one of these parts, well, you're really up shit creek. And if that's not enough for you, there's also numerous typos in the various bits of text that pop up throughout the game, and there's also numerous bugs as well. Like seeing enemies get stuck in walls, and on one level I couldn't even activate a switch and had to restart the level from scratch to proceed. And then of course the whole thing's over really quickly. I mean, I think all up it took me around 2 hours to get through the whole thing, and that was going around and really searching every nook and cranny and trying to kill every enemy in a level. But having said all that and heaped all this crap on the mod, I don't want to make it sound like I didn't like anything about it. I mean, I like how the enemy's eyes glow in the dark. That actually genuinely kind of spooked me out a little bit. I like how thick Rogue and Psylocke are, despite them being rendered in the blocky Quake engine. I also like the fact the game runs without a goddamn hitch in the Dark Places source port, and that removed a lot of headaches I could have potentially had trying to get this thing running. I think part of the blame for how shoddy the whole thing turned out has to fall on Marvel Comics. Now, the story goes that the guy who created the original mod was working on it in 1997 when somehow Marvel had found out about it and decided to make it an official project. Apparently, the one big stipulation here was that it had to be delivered by Christmas, and that basically gave him jack shit in terms of funding and the support to getting it done. And I mean, in the end, I guess they pulled it all together, but it kind of makes you wonder what it would have been like if they didn't have Marvel breathing down their necks and pushing them to complete it under such a tough deadline. They could have spent the next few months or even years working on it over time, learning the ins and outs of the Quake engine, testing and refining the levels for balancing, and to improve the amount of detail in the modeling. It could have been really amazing, and I'm sure it would have run a little bit longer as well. In the year 2006, it was released as freeware, and look, as far as a Quake mod goes, it's still far from the worst one ever made. You just can't deny the amount of man hours that's gone into bringing this whole thing together, and it really does just feel like a labor of love in a lot of ways. So if you like X-Men and you like Quake, well, you might get a little bit of a kick out of it, but everyone else though just might want to stick to shooting people in the back of the head in PUBG or complaining about the hit detection in CSGO.